I feel like a Backstreet Boy with this. Cool. So my name is Matt. I am the St. Louis rep for Bell's Brewery. We are based in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Just a little bit of history about the brewery. Our founder and president, Larry Bell, was born and raised in Southside Chicago. He ended up going to Kalamazoo College in Michigan, where he developed a love of beer. He started working in a bakery because that's where he could get yeast to brew beers to begin with. Home brewing was pretty much illegal in Michigan at that time. So the only place to get yeast to brew beer was at this bakery where he worked. He ended up opening a homebrew shop at our current location on Kalamazoo Avenue, where all of his friends would come and buy yeast and malts and all of that to brew beer once it became legal to homebrew. Eventually, his friends approached him to buy the beer that he was brewing, which obviously was not legal for him. He did not have a brewery license, but he could sell them the recipes. So he started doing that, and at one point it became so much that he was like, screw it, I'm just going to open a brewery. So 1985, Bell's Brewery was established. For the first 5 years, he didn't really turn a profit, and there were only like 5 to 10 employees in total. Fast forward to today, we are the 7th largest craft brewery in the country, which is awesome. I'm very happy to be a part of that. So there's just been a lot of change over the years. We're now at about 300 employees, and we're going to add about 100 this year, which is great, including a lot of sales staff. A little about myself. I am not native to St. Louis, so to say I'm a local is a little bit of a misnomer. I'm from New Jersey. I moved here. Yeah, there we go. I got one. Born and raised in New Jersey. I went to college at Temple University in Philly, which is really where I developed my love of craft beer. For those of you that don't know, Philly is one of the best beer cities in the country, if not the world, right in line with Chicago, St. Louis, San Diego, Portland. So I started working in restaurants there and ended up sort of having a hand in what our bar manager was doing. And eventually, I moved on to manage a bottle shop in Philadelphia. Did that for about 2 years. At that point, I decided to try grad school at Rutgers and hated it, so I dropped out and went back to the bottle shop. While I was working there, I met my lovely fiancée in New York, and she is originally from St. Louis, so I decided to get a job at a distributor in New York City and commute, which sucked. If anybody knows to our commute each way, it's terrible. So did that all for a girl, and she said, I want to move home. I said, okay. So it turned out for the best. She's right over there if you want to say hello. Cool. So I started working for Bell's pretty much as soon as I moved, which is great. One of my first craft beers ever was Two Hearted, which we'll get to drink tonight. To this day, one of my favorite beers of all time. Super drinkable IPA. We'll get to that later. Just a little housekeeping. If you guys have questions at any point about anything, please just don't hesitate to raise your hand. I'll call on you. This is school, so please ask me questions. I've never done this before, and I'm very, very nervous. So the more you guys talk to me, the more I will be able to give you guys any information. So anybody have questions just to start out? Great. Great. So a little more about the brewery. Kalamazoo is, never mind, we have beer coming up. Cool. So this is our winter white ale. Belgian-style wit beer, one of the few beers that we use that does not use our house yeast. 5% Belgian wit, sort of get those classic Belgian flavors, a lot of yeasty esters, fruit, clove, orange, coriander. Something about this beer, we do not spice it. There are a lot of Belgian wit beers out there where they add extracts and spices and big cotton sacks and everything. We do not do that. All of the fruit and spice flavors come from the Belgian Trappist yeast that we use. So along with that, we use 3 different kinds of malts. We use two-row, wheat, and oats, just to sort of give it that really creamy texture. Very easy drinking beer, especially a lot of breweries tend to put out really heavy, thick, high alcohol winter warmers. I'm sure you guys have seen those around. This is sort of a stark contrast to those. Those beers are awesome. I love a lot of them. 12% beer, I can drink one or two. We're more into drinkability, sessionability. So this being 5%, you can probably have 5 or 6 before you're on your ass. But so why don't we all drink it? Thanks. I didn't make it, but it's awesome. Yes, sir. We do not filter our beer at all. We centrifuge some of it, but that is not filtering altogether. We don't put it through anything. It just gives it a more unctuous flavor. I don't know. I like unfiltered beer. We have livers. That's what they're for. Yes. Centrifuge. Okay. So a centrifuge basically uses centripetal force to force sort of the bigger particulate matter out of the beer. This one we don't centrifuge, but most of our beer does go through a centrifuge. This has yeast particles and sort of just small particulate matter throughout the beer. It gives it that hazy color. I also will comment on the name of the beer. Yes, it's a Belgian white, but the name doesn't actually comment on the style of the beer. Larry has always said there's a white you wear in the summer and a white you wear in the winter, which is not actually white. So for some reason he wanted to call this winter white and make it a Belgian white. So take that how you will. What do you guys think? You guys like it? Unctuous? Tell me what you're tasting. Okay. Yep. Yep. A little bit. And it's kind of hard to believe that all of those flavors are coming from the yeast and not from the spices. There are, like I said, there are a lot of breweries out there that do that, and I don't think you need to. It's all in the yeast. That's what this beer is all about. Anybody else hearing that loud sort of wind? No. About 20. So, I mean, it's not really supposed to be a bitter beer, so it being 20 IBUs, sort of adds to the drinkability. So beer in Michigan, generally speaking, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes and no. I mean, there are a lot of breweries that do use Belgian yeast and then add spices on top of it. There's nothing wrong with that method at all. Some people dig the really spicy tones. I know Omegang has a wit beer that I personally really like, and they throw just a little bit of coriander in there to sort of bring out the subtle earthiness of it. Then there are other breweries that just sort of make a base beer and throw stuff in it. I won't name those breweries. You can probably guess. It's a mix as well. I mean, it's really just what you want to do with it and what kind of beer you're trying to make out of it. We feel that the Belgian yeast that we use is spicy enough, it's fruity enough, and it sort of speaks for itself without us putting stuff in it. And that's our view on wit beers. A lot of people, like I said, like to add stuff, while some other people don't. It's really just what you're trying to achieve. Cool. Yes. This beer. That's actually a very good question that I don't know the answer to. I would probably say around 2004, 2005. That's sort of when we started ramping up our production. A little bit about our production. So we were in our original brew house, which is a 20-barrel brew house, which is on back of the cafe in Kalamazoo, downtown Kalamazoo. At one point, we ran out of space. We're working around the clock, 24/7, and we were dragging hoses from one end of the parking lot to the other, where we had our kegging line was on one end of the parking lot, and our fermentation tanks were on the other. So we had a long tube going from the cellar all the way to our kegging line, and that got to be a huge pain. So we decided to expand. You'll see on our bottles it says Comstock, Michigan, not Kalamazoo, and that's because our production facility is technically in Comstock, Michigan. Our original brewery is still up and running, and they produce beer almost exclusively for our brew pub, our cafe, the Eccentric Cafe. So that's still there, but we feel we would be being dishonest if we said Kalamazoo, Michigan on those bottles. So it is in Comstock. That facility opened up in 2008 with a 50-barrel brew house. And we quickly outgrew that and had to add a 200-barrel brew house in 2011. So that's been up and running for about 3 years, and we're close to capacity on that too. Our objective this year is to pass 400,000 barrels, which is a lot of beer. That's the equivalent of about 800,000 kegs. That's kind of a scary number. It's very close to 1 million, which is when you get into Sam Adams territory. Yeah. Cool. Midwest Pale Ale. What do you guys think when I say pale ale? What brewery comes to mind? Yeah, that's the one. I was looking for Cicero. So I want you to throw everything you think about pale ales out the window, because this sort of goes against everything. Being in the Midwest, we are not known for producing great hops. I mean, we work with fantastic hop growers in Michigan. Hophead Farms is absolutely phenomenal at what they do. Famously, in Pacific Northwest, that's where hops come from. When we developed this beer, we really wanted to focus on malts, because Michigan is where good malt comes from. And we like to focus on balanced, almost malt-forward beers. And this is very much a malt-forward pale ale. Excuse me. So with that in mind, this is almost anti-California pale ale. You're going to get a lot more herbal, earthy notes from the hops. We use Brewer's Gold, Goldings, and Ottenham hops. Ottenham was sort of a departure from the original hop. We used, I can't even remember which was the hop we used before Ottenham, but when we tweaked the recipe just a little bit a couple of years ago to sort of put some life back in this brand, and it really, really worked. It used to just be called Bell's Pale Ale, and when we tweaked the recipe, changed up the label, Midwestern Pale Ale seemed a little bit more fitting. If you guys can see, there is a barn on a farm, a barley farm, pictured there. It's on the label as well. That is real. That is a red barn that is on our farm in Shepherd, Michigan, and some of the malt from this beer and our Christmas ale are sourced from this farm. So it's really cool to be able to say we grow some of our own stuff. I think we're actually working on a very small hop farm for specialty beers next to our production facility. At least that's what they told me when I was there. So this one, not terribly bitter. Again, we're very much focused on balanced and malt-forward beer. So you can really taste that bready malt in the forefront, just a little bit of sweetness, and then it really kicks in with the bitterness and sort of herbaceous, earthy hops. Yes? More towards English Pale Ale, not necessarily. Traditionally, yes. English Pale Ales tend to be more malt-forward. This one, I think we were more trying to get sort of our own Midwestern style Pale Ale, which sort of a hard precedent to set, but IBUs on this, 47. Hops, the third one was Ottenham, A-H-T-A-N-U-M. Yes. So that was sort of a relative newcomer when we started using it, but it fits in perfectly. It has just the right amount of sort of aroma and just a touch of bitterness, which I really dig. Yeah. It's not. You get a little bit of the aroma from the hops, but that's really just because it's a late edition. Yeah. Yeah, no problem. You guys like it? Great. This is one of my favorites as well. Super drinkable, very, very, I don't know, it's awesome. Dynamite beer. This is one of our original recipes. So this was back in 1985. Larry started brewing pale ale. Just called it Bell's Pale Ale, and I remember when they made the switch, I think it was 2011, 2012. I was still in the bottle shop, and I saw the label difference. I was like, what the hell are you guys doing? Like, that's not what I ordered. Just showed up, and it's the exact same beer. Sort of, kind of the same beer. Just sort of a different take on a pale ale. Yeah. Glad you guys are liking it. So just to touch on the beer scene in Michigan. Oh, I should also say there will be a quiz at the end of this. So I hope you all have been paying attention, because there's some goodies in these bags for people who get questions right. Yeah, right? Starting to wish you were taking notes, huh? So, beer scene in Michigan. It's actually not that dissimilar from what's going on in St. Louis. Very hyper-local. Everybody's sort of supporting each other. I mean, there is a Brewers Guild in Michigan where all of our head brewers are the head of production for us, John Mallett, is a part of that guild. And, I mean, they have monthly conferences. They hang out, talk. Everybody's really friendly. You know, being in sales myself, I'm used to it being sort of a very cutthroat kind of industry. You know, everybody's trying to take down my draft lines and sell other stuff and yada, yada, yada. I don't want to bore you guys. But it's just very nice to see how encouraging everybody is. It's honestly, the only other place I can compare it to is here. You know, everybody's very collaborative. Everybody tries to help each other out, do events together. I mean, at the end of the day, it is a business, but I'm not in the business of, you know, taking good craft beer out of the craft beer industry. You know, there's so much coming, and there's so much potential and a lot of talent, and I would hate for all these places to close. You know, I like Founders. I like Founders a lot. Cool. Yeah. You guys got anything for me? I'm not really running out of things to say. I'm just kind of nervous up here. Sorry. Hey, thanks. Some liquid courage. In Michigan, there's a lot of breweries. There are a lot of breweries opening up. We're actually opening up a second brewery, not Bell's. It's called Upper Hand, and it's only going to be available on the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Yeah, you guys got it, huh? Upper Hand. So they're starting out with 3 beers, and I've not had any of them. They won't even send it to me. So 2 of our brewers, actually one was the head of our homebrew shop, a young man by the name of Sawyer, and a gentleman named Sam Reese, who was one of the lead brewers in our production facility, were asked to basically build a brew house and cellar and do whatever they want. And Larry was just like, here's a lot of money. Do whatever you want. Just go do. And we just opened that, I think, in November. And it's being really well received. I really wish it could come down here, but unfortunately, that's not going to happen. So you guys can just go to the Upper Peninsula and hang out, you know. It's not that far. It's only like 12 hours. Easy drive. Easy drive. Yes, sir. In the UP, I don't know. I do not know the answer to that. Well, it's kind of like that. It's somewhere there. Upper Hand, right? 2 of our brewers are doing that. It's going great. I was going to say Kalamazoo. That is not 12 hours away. It's only about 6 or 7. So if you guys ever had the chance to go up to Kalamazoo, I highly recommend it. our cafe has a lot of stuff that you'll probably never see outside of the cafe. It's a smattering of wonderful products that I'm really happy to be able to drink whenever I go up there. A lot of sours. Larry always has experimental hop beer. Always has the latest pale ale, so he always has a different kind of pale ale. Last time when I was up there, we had our Fine Art Odyssey, our collaboration with Sierra Nevada, which did make it down here. It was a wonderful imperial dark ale. I know it's cool. So what you guys have now is what we call our special double cream stout. Take that off already, right? Yeah. You said a couple of minutes, man. Go ahead. I'm gonna take your face away. Check. Great. All right, we're back. Great. Cool. Bell's Special Double Cream Stout. It's special because it's the only double cream stout. We don't have any other kind. That's just what it's called. So this is part of our specialty stout series that comes out every November. The only ones that we do package for distribution is this, our double cream stout, Java Stout, which was made with Water Street Coffee. It's a coffee house and roastery right across the street from our original brew house. We have Cherry Stout, which is a little bit unlike a lot of other cherry stouts out there. It's made with 100% Michigan tart cherries, so it's not sweet. It's not a sweet beer. I wouldn't say it's sour. It's just sort of got a little bite to it. So you get your chocolate, a little bit of coffee, and then some tart cherry that really cuts through it and makes it much, much more drinkable. Also our Expedition Stout, big Russian Imperial Stout that everybody loves and you can age forever, basically. I had one from 95 last time I was up at the brewery, still kicking ass and taking names. That thing can sit like, and no other beer I've ever had. So, Double Cream Stout, part of that series. There's also All Stouts Day, so we call it up at the brewery. Every single draft line is a different stout. So there's Sweet Potato Stout, the closest thing we make to a pumpkin beer. There's Dagger Stout, which I've never had. Spice Stout, Harry McGill's Spice Stout, which is exactly what it sounds like. Bear Hug Russian Imperial. We make about 30 stouts. Yeah. Right? So November 1st every year is All Stouts Day. I will be there this year and hope to see some of you up there as well, because it is a good time, so I'm told. Double Cream Stout. How many of you think there's lactose in this or milk products in this? Great. There's not. We make this with 10 different malts. I only know about 5 of them. They won't tell me the rest. So all of that big mocha, chocolate, caramel, toffee, super creaminess comes from all of those specialty malts. So being that malty, it's still got a pretty light body. For 10 different kinds of malts, very, very drinkable. That was like a commercial. Also being at 6.1% with that much malt, you would really expect it to be a little bit thicker. So yeah, no milk products in this at all. It's technically still in the sweet stout category. Left-hand milk stout, their nitro stout, a lot of that still falls into that. They mostly have lactose products. I think this is one of the few that doesn't actually have milk products in it, yet still being in the sweet stout category. The label art on this is probably some of my favorite, just very minimal, sort of heart of a tree. This is done by a very good friend of Larry's, whose name is actually escaping me at the moment. But I mean, that's kind of how we do label art generally, is just get friends of friends and friends of friends, and very rarely do we have a firm do it. So I mean, Double Cream with some of their friends. Our porter, if you guys pick up bottles of that, you'll notice that there's sort of a series of different faces on it, which was done by another person whose name is escaping me. God, I suck at this. But he would basically go to a local watering hole, not the nicest of places, and sit and draw homeless people for fun. And Larry liked the drawings, so he purchased some and then put them on a label. And I think it's awesome. I really like the label art for all of our stuff. Midwest was done by a gentleman by the name of Conrad Kaufman. Two Hearted always has a trout on it. That label art has been the same ever since we started making that beer, but I'll get into that later. What are you guys tasting on this? Just shout it out. Roasty coffee. Great. So all of that. This should be a bigger beer. I think it's insane that it's only 6.1, and yeah, this very light in body. Yeah. Yes and no. So cream stout, you sort of automatically put your mind into that place where, oh, it's going to be creamy, it's going to be unctuous and all of that, which it is. Now, it does confuse a lot of people because, like, well, why would you call it cream stout without milk stuff in it? Like, that doesn't make sense. Too bad. We call it that because it's creamy. A cream stout as a style, I've never heard of. But we make a beer. Yeah. I don't know. It could be some of the malts are not telling me. Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine it isn't in there, but I can neither confirm nor deny that. I mean, I can tell you it's 2-row, roasted barley, chocolate malt, Munich, assorted caramel malts. That's what they say. This one is 50? No. So that's the thing. I mean, we use Fuggle hops in this almost exclusively. So that is really just sort of to counterbalance the amount of malt that's in there. Yes, it is a very, very malt-forward beer. About 50, so right smack dab in the middle. But because it's so malt-forward, it just doesn't really come through. You know, the perceived sweetness is a lot higher. So that's something that we are able to take into account. I mean, you'll see with Two Hearted, you know, everybody sort of wants IPAs to be big and bitter and, you know, ruin your palate and not be able to drink anything else all night. If you treat malt in the right way, the IBUs almost don't matter. You know, if you take an Imperial IPA, they tend to be a little bit more on the sweeter side, like Hop Slam. I'll bring it up, Hop Slam. So that for us, it's a 10.2% double IPA with a lot of hop to it. We also use Michigan honey and a lot of caramel malt to balance that out. You'll never know that it's 10.2%. You will never know that there's that much actual bitterness to it technically. International bittering units. If you treat it right, you will never need to know just how bitter it is. You won't know just how bitter it is. You know, Stone Ruination, you know how bitter it is because they just don't put a lot of malt in it. It's not supposed to be a balanced beer. Hop Slam is supposed to be a balanced beer. And that's not to say that Ruination is a bad beer. It's great. It's great. I will have one. I will also have about half of one Hop Slam because it's huge. And I am a lightweight despite my giant stature. So a little bit more on Hop Slam. Does anybody not know what Hop Slam is? Okay. It's a 10.2% double IPA brewed with Michigan honey. It's an extremely limited product that we put out at the end of every January. We will be getting some in St. Louis. Our distributor will be shipping it out to accounts across their territory next week. So 2 pints, you'll get a teaspoon. Get in line now. Yeah. Just a little bit more. Yeah. No, don't wait too long. Not only, thank you. Not only for the reason that it sells really, really quickly because people go nuts for it. You know, it's kind of insane what I have to do to make sure that everybody's happy, which they're not. But that's neither here nor there. Just drink it quickly. That beer is all about the aroma, and that is the most volatile part of the hop. So just, oop. You won't get hop slam in a pint glass though. Yeah, you'll have one and not be able to get home. So all of that said, drink it quickly because it is all about the aroma. Lots of grapefruit, citrus, a little bit of honey on the palate. It tends to fade quickly just because, like I said, that's the aroma part of the hop is the most volatile part of it. So that'll be going away quickly. Drink quickly and soon, I guess. As soon as you see it, just buy it. Cool. So what you guys have in your hands is sort of our claim to fame, Two Hearted Ale. This beer was originally brewed when we first opened under this name, and I don't know what it was. They won't really say. My bosses won't really tell me. But it wasn't an IPA. So we just sort of discontinued it for a while. And then in 1997, there was a Pacific Northwest hop that became available to market called Centennial hops. We experimented, made an IPA with only Centennial hops and a little bit of two-row and some specialty caramel malts, and came up with this. And it ruled. So it was a seasonal beer because Centennial hops weren't really available all year. So we would make it when we could get it. Make it a limited seasonal run. In 2003, Centennial hops became a little less expensive, available far more often, so it got bumped up to year-round production. And I don't think anybody understood what this beer meant. Last year, I think this did nearly 40% of our overall volume. So this beer, coupled with Oberon, our summer seasonal, was almost 80% of our production last year. Oh, man down. You all right? Well, okay. You good to drive? You all right? You need a bagel? Great. I can call you a cab. Damn, dude, you're dense. Hey, good on you. It doesn't show. You look like, I don't know, not 800 pounds. Cool. Two Hearted. So this, coupled with Oberon, did about 80% of our volume last year, which is kind of ridiculous to think about. Two of our beers did almost all of our beer. That blows my mind every time I think about it. So this beer comes in at a cool 7%, 100% Centennial hops, with two-row and a little bit of specialty caramel malts, really just to balance it out. What are you guys tasting? This one's pretty straightforward. Hops? What kind of hops? I guess I had that coming. So, what kind of fruit are you tasting? I guess. Thank you. Great. That's what I was looking for. Grapefruit and pine. That's about what you'll get from this. And that's really what it's supposed to be. How many of these temp, which is about 57 degrees. This one might be a little bit warmer because it's on the bar, not in the cellar, but it's same difference. You will get a lot more of the hop aroma and a little bit more of the bitterness from it when it's that warm. It's also far less carbonated. We tend to use a little bit of forced carb in our kegs just to sort of bring up the liveliness of the carbonation, but this is straight out of the fermenter into a firkin. not terribly carbonated. And it's sort of a weird experience if you've never had beer from a firkin or a cask. The first time that I had it, it was a little bit off-putting, but once you sort of wrap your head around what it's supposed to be, which is a nearly flat beer, which is not altogether a bad thing, you'll see. It just creates a really unique experience. And the carbonation in the bottled form or our regular draft form is a little more familiar, I guess. I personally like firkin better. I think it's a little bit truer to style, truer to what we're about. You'll see for yourself. It's awesome. Plus, you get to see me whack a hammer really hard into a barrel. I'm sorry? Yes. Real ale is dope. It's awesome.